Well, I want to know where they put Romanov's trampoline after he was done jumping off it like that. Man, did he ever leave his feet?
Yes, I want hitting. I want checking. I want physicality. I want contact. In fact, I want more of it.
It can't change from game to game. It can't change from period to period. It can't change from preseason to regular season to playoffs. It has to be consistent across the board.
I love the game. That's why I care about a state.
You can't have it both ways. We always try and have it both ways.
Stick was on the ice one game, and it was just a train wreck waiting to happen, and boy did it happen, and I want to see more.
To me, this is one of those super easy ones. Kicking, match penalty, suspension, done. Get it out of the game.
Hello, hockey humans of the world. Welcome to Tough Call Podcast Season 5, Episode 4, covering the week of October 17th to 23rd, 2023. Coming up, I'll be looking at the Rasmus Andersson hit on Patrick Laine, unsportsmanlike conduct again, a Jacob Trouba boarding again, a couple of elbows, and playing until the final buzzer. Lots of fun stuff here. As always, if you want a more in-depth breakdown of any of the incidents I talk about here, or for even more hits and questionable calls, check out Tough Call on YouTube and subscribe to the Tough Call YouTube channel. And while you're here at the Heavy Hockey Network channel, you might as well hit the subscribe button right now as well so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And you can check out all of our other podcasts like the Oilers Live podcast and the Fantasy Hockey Hacks podcast, both of which are friends of the Edmonton Sports Talk Network. We've also got the 99 Forever podcast, Paddle Down podcast, Octane 97, and be sure to also go to www.heavyhockey.com to check out all of our articles there, including mine. With that, let's get to our first segment, which is the weekly total fines and suspensions, or WTFs. 17th and 23rd, the NHL issued exactly 0 fines and 1 single lone suspension. And it is the one we agree on, the suspension to Rasmus Andersson 4 games for charging Patrick Laine. And I totally agree with this call. He does launch into contact. It is a charge. I just don't get why they would suspend this one when they had every opportunity to suspend other ones. He's clearly leaving his feet and going into contact, and maybe they're calling it a charge for strides, but I don't see that either. I see the launch as the main thing, the upward and outward extension into contact. And the problem with that is I would have suspended this already this year. We had Leon Draisaitl as an example in the preseason, jumping into the back of an opponent, and he had a lot more distance traveled than this, let me tell you. And then last week we had Elias Pettersson launching into Cody Ceci. He left his feet and made a football tackle that we talked about. Here we have the same thing, a player approaching, launching, rising up and out into contact. But you can't just call this one when you had every opportunity to prevent this from happening. Why do we call this one and not the other ones? Is it because there's head contact? Because like I said, it is too late. If you want to prevent head contact, then you have to call the things consistently that lead to head contact. You can't just punish head contact after it happens, or you're not helping anyone, because then the concussions and the head injuries have already happened. So they had an opportunity to prevent this one by calling the ones that I would have called earlier this year and being consistent on it. And instead, now we have this as a result of the missed calls from before. So, I would have given him 5 games personally, but I would have actually given it for elbowing. I find this to be a little bit different. I should pull it up again. To me, the launch is one thing, but then the outward extension of the arm at the last second and the follow through, to me, that's what I would call here. I would focus more on that, the targeting of the head by the pivot, the jump, and the arm extension. Okay, so the launch is bad enough, and like I said, I already consistently call that, so I would have called this a suspension anyway. But to me, the added game that I would give more than just a regular launch, like a 3-game suspension, is because of that, also that outward extension with the arm. So I kind of would focus on that. But I'm glad they called it here, I guess, and hopefully now they move on and be consistent. But again, I have my doubts. Now let's move on to the ones that I feel they missed. We talked about unsportsmanlike conduct last week a lot. And here's Sam Lafferty shooting the puck after the whistle. Because what happened last time, too. You hear the whistle, and now the shot. And then, of course, what goes after?
Whistle blew.
Whistle, and then poke it into the net. You don't do that, right? That's the unwritten rule. And he's like, what? But again, this would have been prevented by punishing it last week and being consistent with it. I can't stress enough how important consistency is in these kinds of punishments. And the NHL, time and time again, fails to follow up on when they have an opportunity to be consistent and double down on things. And this is the result. The same mistakes keep happening over and over again. Players just keep doing things because they know they're going to get away with it. It is what it is, but it doesn't have to be that way. Now here's another elbow that I would call AJ Greer. This is another bad habit people have. We talked last week about cross-checking and how when a player was beat and then they reached out and used their stick in a cross-check-like fashion and pushed their opponent down, they actually called it. And here's another example of it. It's not a cross-check, it's an elbow, but it's a player who overcommits, puts himself over in a position where he's going to get beat to the inside, so he just turns around and fires any part of his body backwards and upwards to block his opponent from getting past. And in this case, it happens to be the arm, and he basically punches him in the face with a butt end. This is just horrific. You cannot drive your arm, especially the one with your stick in it. You can't just drive your stick, your arm, your hand, everything. And he launches himself backwards into this contact and hits him right in the face. Now, if you're going to call an illegal check to the head 2 games for a player who all they do is take just a little bit of a bad angle of approach, which I'm fine with. I love that. I want to do it, but that's what the NHL did last week too to Brett Howden. And then they have this, which is just clear, avoidable, ridiculously forceful head contact with a part of the body that has nothing to do with making a regular, clean hockey play. This is just penalty all the way. It's completely dangerous, completely avoidable, completely blatant, and you're launching. He launches into contact. He leaves his feet. So you have all the elements here, and they don't do anything about it. I would have given him 5 games for this because it's just, it's the same thing with the kneeings we looked at. It's a player that's going to get beat, so they just reach out with whatever part of their body is closest. And in some cases, it's the leg, which causes knee-on-knee contact. In this case, it's the arm, the elbow, the butt end of your stick. It's just ridiculously avoidable. You can't be having this happen all the time. Make it acceptable for players to reach out with any part of their body at all costs. You need to, if you're going to suspend a knee, then you have to suspend this, and I give it 5 games. And here's another elbow. And again, consistency is key. I'm going to give this one 4 games as well. Again, extremely avoidable situation. It's a place where there's not really the availability for a good, clean body contact based on angle of approach. You can't make a nice body check here because the part of the body that you need to check on the opponent just isn't available for contact. So in this case, Mason McTavish glides by, and then he reaches out with his arm. Instead of just gliding by and giving him a little bump, he extends up and out with that shoulder, with that elbow, and pops him in the head. This is extremely avoidable and unnecessary head contact. Like, this is exactly the type of hit you're trying to get out of the game. So I give him 4 games for elbowing, for reaching, extending out, unnecessary extension of the body upward and outward toward and targeting the head. That is the whole point of these rules. So again, another missed opportunity. And now we're going to look at Jacob Trouba boarding. I could just have this on repeat every week, I think. It's just so late. That's the point of this. It's exceptionally late. We have a player who's just gotten rid of the puck. Yeah, and you could allow a little bit of a bump here. I know there's some leeway, although there really shouldn't be, because the intention of hitting is to separate the opponent from the puck or to gain position to get the puck. And the puck was already gone, so he doesn't really need to finish the puck. But I get that there's some leeway here. They're professionals. But he gets rid of the puck right there. Trouba is on a path of travel that's not really going toward the opponent. He's going along the same lines as the opponent. So he could just as easily turn away from this contact as into it, or, at the very least, just stay on your current path of travel and just bump into him. But Jacob Trouba, classic fashion, like I always say, watch his posture. It's his left foot. He always raises his right foot off the ice, plants his left foot, and leans upward and outward, driving his right shoulder and arm into contact. It is the classic Jacob Trouba hitting technique. The right leg is off, the left leg drives upward and outward, and his shoulder reaches and pushes out. That is so needless, so avoidable, and in this case, exceptionally late. And you're creating a situation where you're sending an opponent dangerously into the boards unnecessarily. It has nothing to do with making a hockey play anymore. All he wants to do is finish his check, and the extreme avoidability in the way he finishes his check is what creates the danger of this contact and puts him into the boards. So to me, it's already blatant interference for being exceptionally late and going out of his way to initiate the type of contact he did after the puck was gone. And in this case, it sends a player dangerously into the boards. So I give him 3 games for boarding. Just way too avoidable, way too unnecessary, and classic Jacob Trouba hitting technique that, in my opinion, is dangerous for the game and always creates trouble no matter what situation he's in. Even when he's trying to make legal contact in a situation where it is legal to do so and the opponent is eligible, that technique is very dangerous. So in this case, when his opponent isn't eligible to be checked anymore, why allow him to continue to be dangerous? You have to crack down on this guy. Too many things have happened, and too many things are still going to happen if we don't do something about the way he throws body checks. That's the last one. So we're going to move on to the next segment called By Request. This week's By Request was the Jacob Trouba boarding incident I just talked about. I was supposed to just mention it in passing in my weekly total fines and suspensions and then go into more of an in-depth look at it in this segment. But since I already did, I guess we'll move on to the next segment, which is Incident of the Week. Is a revisit of that AJ Greer elbow we talked about earlier in the episode. I just want to reiterate the importance of calling these consistently. We want to make sure we send a message that it is not okay for players to just throw any body part and every body part possible in front of the path of a player when they are beat. This extreme jumping, backward, thrusting motion is just too extreme. It's not a regular trip or a regular extension of the body. This is an exceptionally dangerous and, predominant, exaggerated launch of the body. We just can't have this happen. Too many bad things could happen as a result. It's just too dangerous. We need to have players accept when they are beat. Now let's move on to something a little more fun. Our clean check of the week, which is coming from an unlikely source for probably most of you, Connor McDavid. To me, actually, McDavid has really upped his physicality in the last season, especially last year, and then now still into this season. He's really upped his physicality. And this is just another example of it. He doesn't just allow his opponent to make a play on the puck and turn away. He really gets physical, and it's not excessive, but it's just more than the regular run-of-the-mill contact. This player is perfectly eligible. It's shoulder through core, and it's just a push off and get out of my way so I can move on with the puck. It's clearly puck focused. He's setting himself up for coming out of that battle with the puck, but it's just exciting physical hard contact. So that's our clean check of the week, McDavid on Parsonen. And that will bring us to our final segment, which is Here's the Thing. And again, I have two topics to talk about in this final segment of our episode. And the first one is about the Q fighting ban that everybody thought would be this massive deal. The Quebec Major Junior Hockey League announced severe repercussions now for fighting more so than in the past. They're really trying to make sure that they reduce the instances of fighting in their league. And of course, a lot of people think this will increase the amount of cheap shots, the amount of stick work, the amount of dirty play. Players won't be able to protect themselves, and yada, yada, yada. And lo and behold, in the preseason, we had Rory Pilling of the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles, playing in a preseason game in Halifax, and there was a knee-on-knee collision, and he broke his femur. And I don't know how many people had pre-written articles just waiting for the very first incident to happen, and they just put insert name here, and they hit submit on the article and saying, see, the Q fighting ban already failed. It doesn't work. It didn't protect this player, blah, blah, blah. And when the Q fighting ban came out, I put out a video saying nothing's going to happen. It's not going to change anything. And then this happened, and I said it's not from the Q fighting ban. And I put out a response to all the articles that came out saying, told you so, told you so, told you so, with this one example. And I said, nothing else is going to come out of it. The Q fighting ban will have no negative effect. And lo and behold, it's become a non-issue, hasn't it? Ever since that incident, I've been waiting weeks and nothing else has happened. No one has followed up. No one's written another article. It was just one of those things people were waiting to have happen for their clicks, and they're rallying the troops for fighting in hockey. They had the one incident. They ran with it, that's for sure. But they've got nothing. They've got nothing to follow up on, because the Q fighting ban or any fighting ban or any crackdown like an instigator rule or anything will have no negative effect on the game of hockey. And I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting to be proven wrong, and it just hasn't happened. So I just wanted to talk about that and say I'm still waiting, and we'll see what happens for the rest of the year. Maybe I'll be wrong, but for as long as I've had this channel, I haven't been wrong. So I just don't see how any fighting ban or any instigator rule that's designed to protect people from being in unnecessary fights and being jumped, which is a good thing, which is good for player safety, will have a negative effect on player safety. It hasn't happened, and it will not happen, and I stand by that. And now the last thing is we're going to revisit the Rasmus Andersson hit on Patrick Laine. And to me, look, if you're still trying to score in a game, you should still expect to be hit. A lot of people are saying that this should be punished because of the timing. There was only a couple of seconds left in the game. Whether he hit Laine there or not wouldn't have any effect on the game. To me, you play till the buzzer. Now, do you have to go out of your way to launch into someone and throw your elbow out and hit them like that? No, and that's what he should be punished for. But Laine was still eligible to be checked. He was actually still trying to score an empty net goal. Andersson has every right to finish this check. That is not the issue. The issue is not that he delivered any contact at all. It's the way in which he delivered the contact. But for the love of God, play to the buzzer. Let's keep the physicality in the game to the last second and get everything we can out of it. But just don't jump into a guy and hit him in the head. And that's true whether there's 2 seconds left in the game, 2 seconds into the game, or 2 periods or whatever. Any moment in the game, you can't hit that way, which is why he was punished. But any moment in the game, if you have the puck, you are eligible to be hit, and you should expect to be hit. And that should end this episode of Tough Call Podcast, episode 4. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you again next week.